Hey everybody, good morning. Just like the Pirates and SM-33 to the Order 66 raid, I seem to be fashionably late to the party on this one. I wasn't sure I was going to post at all, but this morning I decided I definitely should. And what I'm referring to right now is the new battle, Crimes Against the Republic, Mace Windu, and his marquees era battles that's coming up in the next 2 weeks. There's been a lot that I've seen posted, and I've definitely seen my name dragged through the mud just a little bit. Hopefully in jest. I didn't really take any offense to those things, but I do realize that the game needs to not be an echo chamber. So we're gonna talk about that in just a minute. Just a quick announcement as well for those of you who don't follow our Discord as much. I'm going to be more permanently distancing myself from Reddit in favor of trying out Substack. So if you are somebody that typically follows my text guides or my text-based math posts, that's where you will be able to find them for now. And as always, those tags will appear on Discord. But with all of that said, let's get into it. Ooh, look at that, wrong camera. There we go. So we have the new era battles coming to the game, and right up on the screen right now, because I didn't preempt my sources, is the Crimes Against Republic era battle requirements that Meathead had posted about 12, 13 hours ago. And this was in response to the data mine. That some people are able to read very well, other people have some trouble with. But essentially, the struggle that a lot of people were having is noticing that here on tier 5, I believe it is. I don't know why I'm looking at it here. I can just look at it on the webpage. Here on tier 5, we noticed that this era battle does require having Jedi Master Mace Windu, not just requiring the marquees. This is something that I predicted weeks ago. I think I had said it on one of my brunches that it was one of my fears that Jedi Master Mace Windu would be a requirement. Other people had said, oh, well, maybe Jocasta Nu will just be allowed in the battle. And I guess we're both right in that regard, or in that extension, because Jocasta Nu is a allowed character. But once again, at tier 5, you are going to need a badass motherfucker, Mace Windu. And I've seen a lot of alarmism over this throughout the content creator sphere and throughout the player sphere on Discord. And although I haven't commented on it, I have seen it as well on Reddit. People being like, oh, what the hell, man? Like, it was fucking riding on cars or some shit like that. That was a reference for all two of you that enjoy the games that I enjoy as well. Here's the thing that I have been coming to grips with as a player in this game over the last couple of years, and that essentially is that I'm not going to get all of the rewards. I honestly, although I had said that this was going to be a fear of mine, and I was worried that this was the case, when the news actually dropped, it was almost like an epiphany moment to me, where I realized I don't know why I was afraid at all, because I'm not getting these characters to 7 stars anyway, right? Like, yes, I have the clones. I have the clones mostly because of other very generous people, not because of myself. Scorch, I did spend my own crystals on because, well, it seemed kind of odd to have 3 R9 clones, and this guy just sitting at G11. But when we look at the Jedi Vanguard, I don't expect to get very far with Temple Guard, and I don't expect to get very far with Depa. So, with the era battles, I had never intended to get past tier 2, uh, which, was that epiphany moment of realizing, what am I upset about? What am I mad about? I knew from the beginning that wasn't happening. And I think the realization that I'm coming to, and that I think other players need to come to, the Arabat, I wouldn't be here yet, but um, is that it's okay that you're not getting every single reward that's in game at all times. Like, it's fine. Um, I know that it's almost like Bart Simpson, say the line, say the line, say the line. But the reality is that CG is a business, and they are in the business of making money, and they are in the business of making money in basically any way possible. I have played other games. I've played Marvel Strike Force. I've played the new DC Dark Legion. I've played AFK Arena. I have played Warhammer Tacticus. Um, that is not to say that CG is always player friendly, but this is, believe it or not, one of the more friendly in the industry when it comes to thinking about the players in some regard. And we have to understand that many decisions, many decisions are going to be made for that upper echelon of players that I don't exist within, right? And the reality is that players in my position are largely going to be unaffected by those decisions, right? If Old Man Logan purchases the marquee packs for the Jedi, I know that they're not here yet, and gets some extra awards from the new era battle, it doesn't cause me any problems, right? It's not a big deal for me. It's actually a benefit for me because as those people spend more money, we've actually seen prices in this game come down, right? Marquees used to be $300. Now they're $120. Now they're even less if we consider the era battles and getting them on just a little bit of a delay. Um, I, I, I don't know. I just don't think it is as problematic as some people are thinking. And the same people complaining about it uh, are are the people that weren't going to bring their characters past G11 anyway, right? So those rewards weren't something that they were going to be getting anything from as it was. I did do a text post about 3 months ago, and I'm gonna stall and look that up while I'm talking on my other screen here. But essentially, it was the idea that with these new era battles, we have to look at this era of rewards being the end of the era of ROI, right? We talk about ROI on events, and more the era of rebates, okay? So for those of you that haven't seen that post, the essential idea, and it wasn't true with Nightfall because Nightfall was bugged for a decent amount of time, so you definitely did get an ROI with that event if you invested early. But the idea here is that these events are for people to get some resource acquisition back from the resources that they were already going to spend, right? I took my clones to R9 because I recognized I needed dark side R9 teams and I needed an R9 raid team. So it made sense for me to do that. I was doing it completely outside of the ROI of the event, and I just happened to get materials back. And it's kind of the same thing here with this next battle coming up. If you are someone who is going to invest early, you are going to get a little bit of the material back that you are already going to spend. kind of like a refund of sort, and again, or like a rebate of a sort. And it might be something that does push some players to decide to spend some resources. But for the most part, many of us, myself and other players are included, are probably going to sit at that tier 2 just to get shards. Okay, I'll tell you right now as we talk about my goals going into this next era battle is I would like to have Temple Guard at 7 shards below 5 stars by the end of his era battle. And that's 7 shards is because tier 1 of the era battle will get me those shards, which will unlock tier 2. And allow me to more quickly jump on these guys in order to get Mace Windu on his second run. There are a couple of things as everybody rolls their eyes at me that I do want us all to keep in mind. The first is that when we look at the data mine, tier 6 for droid brains, keypads, and Omicrons is only relic 7 this time, which means that in the future, you are going to get a return on these materials without having needed to spend any of those materials, which is kind of cool. The tier 7 now is crystals. I believe it is 2,000 crystals. I honestly believe that in the future, this tier, and we'll talk more about what I mean, will probably disappear, and will no longer be there after the initial era battles happen. I would be surprised if it remains, but if it does, great. The second thing is that these era battles, Meathead did kind of let us know in his calendar post that they do intend for these battles to be one-offs every once in a while. So I don't know what that entails. Like maybe every month one drops that is a legacy era battle. Maybe 2 drop every time there's a legacy battle. I have no idea, but he did let it be known that there was intention to kind of cycle out as one-offs old era battles. And the timeline that he did give us on the forums and on Reddit does support that, and he kind of showed Nightfall being slotted in towards the end of the next era after this one. Now, I am not holding him to that. I don't know if that is if that was just him demonstrating the point of what to expect. But what that does mean is that when we get into the raid and when we, do bring these characters to R7 or 8 or 9, we will see a little bit of a return on this, regardless of if we invested now or if we choose to invest, later on. Will the person who invests now get more back? Of course, right? Of course they will. Do I think that there are reasons to bitch and complain and moan? Yes, I absolutely do. I know I have been getting a reputation as being a CG shill over the last year, and I will counter that with saying that I have made just as many posts against them, just in a more measured tone. And many of my math posts are not intended to promote packs, but are instead intended to allow players to make informed decisions about the packs that they make and that they buy. And that might mean that some people buy a pack that they wouldn't have, but it also means other players don't buy a pack because now they understand what the dynamics of the pack actually offer. And I try not to be anything more than measured in those responses. So if I were to finish this off here, I would just say, as we get into this, this new era, as we get into these new era battles, remember what things were like 2 years ago, where we got nothing. Remember where things were a year ago, where we got, just the character quests, and the 5 shards a day. And look at where we are now, with many of us who will not see those shards consistently, or will not unlock new characters at high levels consistently. Um, Now being able to more quickly jump on characters from a free to play standpoint, at a much, much, much quicker pace. And that is something that I am excited for. So with that said, if you want to light me up in the comments, by all means do it, but make sense about it, I guess. Have a point. I'm sick of seeing the same old shit. So at least counter it in a reasonable manner. And whether you agree with me or you don't agree with me, either way, peace out and have a great rest of your day.